Hello, everyone, and welcome to Socket.io. So by the end of this lesson, I hope that you will be able to make a socket-based chat app. So I've got an idea for how we're going to do this. I don't do this kind of thing a ton, but I think this might work out well. We're going to go through a tutorial together, you and me. I'm going to break from the tutorial like a couple times. There's a couple things that I wouldn't do exactly the way that they did, but we're going to go through this together. We're all going to have working chat apps, and then we're going to talk about sockets and what they are and why they work the way they do. Sound good? Sounds good. All right, so here's the tutorial we're going to go through. Putting it in chat. So go ahead and get yourself over there and then load up an empty folder to work with. There's the crew. Hey, Damon and John. We're going to start by going through the Socket.io tutorial together. I just put it in chat.
See, John, I pulled this out right in time. I didn't want to miss the setup.
Make sure you got an empty folder ready to get some magic done in. All right, and for this one, I'm trying to go slow. So if you find me like just zooming ahead, call it out, yell at me, tell me to stop. We're all doing this one together. All right, so I have an empty folder here. Got the tutorial instructions right over here. So the first thing they're asking us to do is make this package.json. It doesn't need to look like this. So what you can do instead is just npm init-y and end up in just about the same place. So why don't you go ahead and do that now. npm init-y. That's going to make the package JSON for you. And then we're going to install Express. You don't need to worry about the version on that. You can just npm install Express. Fire it off. Now for this next part, we're going to do something pretty similar to this. We're going to make an index.js file, open it up in a text editor. We're grown-ups, so we don't use var anymore. But otherwise, pretty close. Const app require express and then invoke it. You've never seen that syntax before. It's called currying. Require express returns a function, and so we just invoke that function right away. We're going to do this HTTP. If you've done Express with me before, this part should feel kind of new. Like it's a different way of doing the thing we've done before. It is, but it's going to pay off. And we're going to app dot get, and this takes two arguments, a string and a function. This is exactly like the router in Rails is, by the way. Method, path. Also, since we're grown-ups, I don't like using rec and res. They are all over the Express world. I think it's sloppy. Say request response like an adult. And then we can response.send back some HTML if we want. And then we're going to tell that HTTP server to listen. Let's do port 4000. I always have a bunch of random 3000-ish ports occupied. Let's call it 4000. And you can pass a function as the second argument to that, and it will go. It'll do this whenever you fire up the server. Cool. This is going to end up being our back end. We're going to sockets require a front end and a back end part to it. We're setting up our back end. Take a second to make sure your screen looks at least kind of like mine. You'll know it works if you can run node and then the name of the file and see, I'm listening on port 4000 come back. If that happens, you did it right. If you're getting syntax errors, let's stop and fix them.
What was the reason for the exclamation mark in front of node?
Because I haven't left Vim. So that's how you say, I want you to run a shell command.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I'm doing it on the terminal, that's what we're hoping to see. And then it'll stop because it's waiting for you to like actually use the server. So you can Control C to kill it. All right, questions so far? So next thing you want to do, let's make sure this is working the way we think it should. If I do node index.js and go to localhost 4000, I should see some HTML show up on the page. Take a sec to make sure that we got that much working.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
Why did they do HTTP.listen instead of app.listen?
Because of how we're going to do this, like a couple steps down with the sockets.
Okay.
Shoot. It ends up coming up down the road.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Cool. Onward. So next thing, we're going to do this part a little bit differently. You can actually serve HTML files out of Express apps. Fuck that. That's stupid. So we're not going to do it. So we're just going to make an index.html file. Should be in the same folder as everything else. So that folder ends up looking like this. I have an empty index.html file. All right, we're going to open up that index.html file. And we're just going to copy in all of this HTML. Like that. No serious magic here. It's a form with a single input, an empty container for us to throw messages in, and some like boilerplate styles. So if we want to check that this works, run light server. And we should see this send button down at the bottom. We should see a form that we can type in. That's how we know that's working. All right, pausing again. Questions?
With the CSS, can we also just create a CSS file and check it out?
Totally. Also works. All right, onward. So now we're going to do the sockets part. So first thing we need to do is go back into this folder and do npm install socket.io. What this is going to do is install the backend part of this. So it comes the backend part and a front end part. We're npm installing the backend part of it. And now we're going to go back into that index.js file that we did the first one. And we need to make a new variable here called io. And we're going to require in socket.io. And then just like we curried this thing up here, we're also going to curry this one with HTTP. Next step, we actually don't need this handler anymore. We can just get rid of it. What we want to do is this next part, io.onConnection. The thing it gets is a socket that gets passed into this callback. So we want something, our Express app should look kind of like this now.
App.get and then the response.send file. That's basically saying, hey, send an HTML file, and we're just doing light server instead of that.
Correct. Maybe,
Express,
go ahead.
so Express is kind of also full stack then. I didn't realize that.
Oh,
You
yeah.
serve an HTML file. Okay.
Correct. I think there are very few, if any, good reasons to do that, but it can be done. It does get done. Probably shouldn't get done. Anybody recognize this? This looks kind of familiar. The shape of those three lines.
Looks like the event listener.
It does kind of look like an event listener, doesn't it? Turns out that's exactly what it is. It's just listening for an event over a network. Cool. Other questions so far?
So that console.log, that's logging to our backend then.
Correct. We're going to see that in the terminal.
Sweet, thank you.
Anything else? All right. Now, time to do the front end part of this. We're going to do this all in one file. I don't know if you realized you could do that. You can do that. Down here at the bottom of the body, we're going to bring in the socket.io library. Source. This thing, how this starts with a slash, you probably haven't seen that before for good reason. Nobody writes it that way anymore. This is a way of doing, it's called like an agnostic protocol. It's saying, hey, I don't know if you're using HTTP or HTTPS. I don't care. I'll use whatever is being used right now. It kind of fell out of favor a few years ago. So we can just say HTTPS : // Otherwise it works the same way. Okay, so that gives us access to the socket.io library. Below that, we're going to make another script. The big thing, the reason we did this first part is to get this IO global variable. Loading this file in made this IO function available, and everything comes after it. So we can say const socket equals IO, like that. All right, so next thing. Notice that I'm not specifying any URL when I call IO, since it defaults to trying to connect with the host that serves the page. Auga, auga, auga. We're running a light server separately from this. So we need to tell it where to find our server. We're going to pass in a string, and it's not going to be HTTP. It's not going to be HTTPS. It's going to be WebSocket Protocol : / localhost 4000. Cool. If we did all of these things correctly, we should be able to serve up both of these. So I'm going to start up two terminals.
Call that a URL?
Yes. It is a uniform resource locator.
Okay.
Our server is going to be node index.js. Our client is going to be light server. And if we did it right, it should say user connected, but it didn't, so we didn't do it right. Let's figure out what it did wrong. I'd say a likely culprit is I maybe got the syntax on this one goofy. Yeah, let me check something real quick. Nope.
Is it because you told it to run on 4,000?
Yeah, the server's running on 4,000 though, isn't it?
No, it's 3,000. Or is it?
I'm almost positive it is. Could be wrong.
If we're doing HTTP listen, does that mean? I guess that's why I'm confused. Oh, I see, because we did the .io with.
Yeah, see, I did that shit right. Localhost 3,000.
Yeah, the difference in this one is that you put 4,000.
Right, which is exactly where we're running that backend.
Oh, the backend part. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, see.
You need a script for your JS in the HTML.
It's there. All right, let's take a look at the console. IO is not defined. All right, anybody know what that means?
That variable IO is probably supposed to be something else.
Nope.
Maybe you have the wrong link in your script tag.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So what I'm going to do is look for socket IO CDN. That looks like a mighty fine link to me. I'm going to put it in chat.
Hmm.
And I'm going to try swapping that guy out. Oh, womp womp. Can anybody tell why it's mad at me?
Good old cores.
Cores! Cores is way easier to fix or to implement in Express than it is in Rails. So follow me. We're going to npm install cores. And then we're going to go over to our Express app. We're going to bring in cores like this. Const cores is require cores. And then right below it, app.use cores and then invoke it. Jesus. So my kids had had firefighters come and talk to their Cub Scout meeting recently. And they're like, all right, what questions do you have? I was like, I have one. What determines how loud the fire engine is? Just saying, as somebody who lives 20 feet from a fire department. And like both of the firefighters, it's like sighed visibly. And they're like, it's really the person driving it, man. There's no rules or anything around it. Some of them just love leaning on that thing. It's like, fucking hey. Cool. So a big thing we're looking for is to bring in cores, app.use cores, and invoke it.
Do we have to npm install cores, or does that happen automatically?
We got to npm install cores.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then anytime you're doing that, you got to restart your server. What in the fuck? Ooh. K Interessante. Doesn't like that either. Let me take a look.
Can I just ask a quick question? Why didn't you, or where did the app.get request response? You just, that was just like a placeholder for the time being just to set it up, or is that not needed?
That, what about the request and response?
Oh yeah, I'm just looking in your index here because you had it set up just to
Oh yeah,
maybe
we
like
were
a
just
test
doing
run.
that to make sure that like Express was working.
Follow.
Okay, I was wrong. This is how you do cores with sockets. Never mind. Forget cores. And then if I restart the server,
Would you go back to that, or do you want to check it?
Hang on, slow down. I'm making sure that I got it working before I'll let you follow along.
Okay.
Set origins. That sort of seems like that should be working to me. IO set is not a function. All right, so now we go docs hunting. So we want to see. Where's your docs, yo? Documentation. Server API. So, all right. So those of you who are, has the docs lesson happened yet? Anybody go to it?
That's later.
All right. So here's your preview for it. It's saying there's no io.set. I can swear there is though. So I want to look through all of this. I'm looking for anything over on this server side. Might help me with that. Socket.io cores. They changed it. It looks like they changed it since the last time I taught this lesson. Dope. Fair enough. All right, so new way of doing this happens when we're doing this like socket call here. So that's going to be require socket.io, pass in the HTTP, and then we're going to pass in this object that has cores, origin. We'll wildcard it. And then I'll bet we don't need to do the methods. But let's see. Expects a comma delimited string or an array. It doesn't say whether or not it's required. So let's try doing a wildcard on that also. All right, so now if I restart that server, it's happy. Hey, and a user connected. All right, pause to catch up. That is how we do cores with this. Hit me with some questions. Our front end looks like this. Our back end looks like this. If you're doing this right, if you got it all set up right, you should see a user connected for every time you open a tab with this localhost in it.
What does your HTML look like again?
So we pulled in the CDN, and then we established a socket.
I'm running into an error that says that the core's access control out origin header must not be the wildcard when the requests credentials mode is include. The credentials mode of requests initiated by the by the XML request is controlled with credentials attribute.
Anybody else seeing an issue with that? You shouldn't. That's the kind of thing I would expect to see on a fetch cross-origin error. Here, check it out. If you set up multiple of these, watch my terminal. Pew. Pew. All right. I want some affirmative checking here. Give me a thumbs up or a yeehaw in chat if you've got this working. Good, good, good.
Does it have to type when you type something? Is it supposed to show up?
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
All we're looking for is this a user connected thing happening. Okay, Gordo's having trouble. AJ's all right. Gordo, talk to me. What's going on?
I got a not found 404 localhost 4000.
All right. Gordo, if you wouldn't mind, would you screen share so we can take a look?
Okay.
All right, cool. So, oh, you probably want to go to port 3000 in your browser. 4000 is the server, 3000 probably is the client. It's wherever Light Server put it. All right, excellent. So that IO error, go over to your HTML. Cool. Source equals on line 52.
That big bright red thing?
Yep.
Yeah, weird.
All right. Hey, a user connected. I see it.
Hey, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
My user's also not connected.
All right. Who was that?
Music.
Music. All right. Go ahead and screen share and let's take a look.
Oh, I'm getting it.
All right. So you've got port 3000 there. Let me see your terminal that you're running Light Server on.
Where are you guys? I lost you. Here.
Hey. Okay. So we've got Light Server there. Can you scroll up just a little bit on that terminal? All right. So that's on 3000. Cool. Show me the terminal that's running your server.
Oh, it went away.
Well, that's probably our problem right there. Why don't you navigate back to, or just make another one. Yeah.
It's. Do I need to stop my Light Server?
Nope. Perfect. And then go to your browser and then try refreshing.
Why is this question mark here?
I don't know. All right, something it doesn't like. So let's let me see your HTML. WS, not WE.
Oh.
All right, back over to your browser. All right, now let me see your node terminal. A user connected!
Thank you.
Yes. All right, cool. All right, John's working. Katie, how you doing?
I don't have a user connecting, but I just noticed that did we change the script source in the,
Yes.
okay, I missed that actually.
Cool. I
Can-
posted it in chat.
Oh, okay.
It's the one that says CDN.js.
Got it, thanks.
Cool. Any other questions about anything we've done so far? All right, Katie, go ahead and holler if you you get stuck on anything. Elsewise, onward. Okay, so we've got a user connecting. Dope. There's also a disconnect event, whatever. So yeah, you can refresh, whatever. So now we're getting to the meat of what sockets are all about. So the easiest way to think of a socket as it's an event listener over a network. So you can emit an event over a network and you can listen for an event over a network. So what we're going to do, this is the gross fucking way you used to have to do stuff like this. We've got a better way to do it now. I'll probably look a little more familiar. So below our socket IO, is on the client side in the HTML. We're going to grab the form. Document.query selector form. Sweet. We want to listen for the submit event. We know how to do that. Add event listener, submit. We want to prevent default. Nothing socket specific about this yet. And now we're going to emit out of the socket, socket.emit, some string, and then some value. So we call this chat message, like they have it there. And that like goofy thing with the val, that's just the input for this submit event. So we can use our form data, do this like we normally do. And then make this form data.get, whatever the name of this is. Doesn't have one, gross. Add a name to that input, and we'll call it message. We'll say form data.get message. So things we changed on this, we added a name attribute to input of message. We grabbed the form. We added a submit listener for it. Prevent the default behavior. Yank the data out of the form. The only socket specific part of this is we are emitting a chat message and we're sending it the contents of that input. And then the last thing we want to do is event.target.reset. That clears the form. This is the exact same thing that's happening in the tutorial, just updated 5 years. Man, this language has gotten better.
I've noticed that they have an ID of M on something, which is really descriptive.
My favorite. No student of mine, that's for fucking sure. All right, so now for the back end part of this, when a user connects, we want to take this socket that we're getting, and we're going to listen for the chat message event. We're going to take in the message that we get sent, and we're just going to log it for right now. Like that. So this is happening inside of that connection listener whenever a user connects, we take the socket that we establish and listen for a chat message event. It also happens to give us a string, and we can do whatever we want with that. Front end, back end. So we did this right. Now we got to restart our server. We did this right. I should be able to type some message in here, hit enter. If I did the reset right, that should go away. And I should see it popping up over on my server. Let's take a second to get caught up on that. Any questions?
Chat. No. I didn't realize I was unmuted.
All right, so we can send a message over a socket. Cool. Now, we want to broadcast that message. So we're going to use io.emit, or sorry, we're going to use socket.broadcast. Nope, there it is. Like that. So we want to make our, instead of just logging the message, io.emit chat message and the message. So now this is going to fire that event to every socket that is connected to this server. It's going to broadcast an event. Any guesses what we do next?
Find that event on our front end.
Yep. We're just going to listen for that event. So that's going to look like socket on chat message. And it's going to take whatever message it gets. And then we're going to domify it. So we can say, that's a UL. We can make an LI. Even Mod 2 students doing this kind of stuff now. I'm going to set its text content to the message. We can grab the UL. What's it? Messages. I'm gonna put that UL up here. We'll say UL dot append li. So now, whenever somebody sends a message over that socket, it should fire back. Here, let's make more than one client. So I'm going to open this tab over here. Tab there, tab there. I send a message. It goes into the void and nobody sees it. Let me see what happened. That's fine.
Your ID should be messages with S.
Oh, thank you. Throwing it into nothing. Uh-oh. All right, troubleshooting time. Got the messages. That's the UL. I'm listening for the chat message. I create the LI. I set that to that. And I append that. This is
Mine's not working from what you put in. So it
yeah.
might be somewhere. Yeah, mine's is definitely working.
Oh, maybe I didn't restart the. Oh yeah, it's still logging the shit on the console. I didn't restart the server.
Oh,
So there it is.
That makes sense.
Hey, look, it's over in the other tab too. And it's over in the other tab. We're chatting, baby. Cool.
Kyle, where did you start your second server?
Oh, it's not a second server. It's one server. It's just two tabs.
Oh,
Yeah.
theoretically, if you wanted like to pretend that two people were talking, would you use it separate servers and have them next?
No, it's one server. That's the whole point of this.
Oh,
There's one server in the middle that's acting as like the traffic cop for where all these messages need to go. So everybody has a socket open with that server, and that server goes, hey, I just got a message here, and every time that happens, I broadcast it out to everybody. You could also do that more narrowly. You can do DMs. You can go, a user with this ID, they want to send a private message to the user with this ID. I happen to know that that user with that ID has a socket open with me right now on this thing. That's how you do that.
now that we've done a whole build, could we go into the theory of exactly what's going on?
Yep. More
Like-
questions about the build, though.
Where did you where did we drop in the messages?
Over here. So this came in the HTML that they gave us. But we're grabbing it with a query selector. And every time we get that event, we make a LI out of it, add it.
I can't see what I did wrong.
All right, Johnny, why don't you go ahead and screen share and let's troubleshoot.
Sorry, Hagar. Now you want to get to the theory.
Furious. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Okay, so on chat message, you're making LI, set the text content, append it to the UL. Messages is there. All right, your front end looks okay to me. That's your back end. Yup. Go ahead and restart your node server. Okay, send yourself a message. All right, why don't you open up your terminal, see, or your console, I mean, let's see if we're getting any errors. Refresh. Oop. Where'd your app go? Am I just not seeing it? It might be because you maximized it.
What do you mean? This?
There. Yeah, down the bottom. I can't see the bottom of your screen.
Oh, let me make this a little bit smaller.
There we go. What is using document.write? That's unusual. Try sending a message. All right, back over to your code. Oop, why is your server mad at you here? See that red dot?
Oh, this block.
Yeah.
Breakpoint.
You got a breakpoint. That's probably no good.
Accidentally. Let's try it again.
Restart your server. You don't need to restart the light server too, just the just that one. All right. All right, cool. Back over to your code. Okay. Socket on chat message. IO emit chat message. Let me make sure you got that CORS thing right. CORS origin methods. Good. Good. And
Can
okay,
you
go ahead.
I was gonna ask him to go back to his index. It looks like it still logs in a user connected, even though okay, it's in there. So it's definitely hidden. Put it front end.
Back to your HTML. Okay, now I kind of want to see. Okay, so let's narrow the problem down. Are we getting the socket message? So on line, like right after line 34, try logging that message. Yeah. No need to restart anything. Let's just, and then open up your console here. Yeah. All right. Try firing something off. Okay. Nothing. All right. So that means it's not getting that far. This is listening for socket on chat message. Socket's up there. So
doesn't the IO have to be initialized with the, oh wait, no, never mind. That looks right. Sorry.
So back to your server. Sorry, the server code.
The backend.
Yeah. So now I want to see, is it making it here? So after line 13, try logging the message there. All right. Reload your server. Sorry, other one, just your node server.
Okay.
All right. So now try sending a message and let's see if it made it to the back end. Ooh, connection refused. That's a problem. All right, fire it off. Back over to your server. Hey, it made it though.
Oh,
that's good. That's a good sign. Ah, you got 3 S's in message on line 15.
ooh, sneaky.
All right, now give it a shot.
Nothing.
Oh, I need to restart your server. Duh. Okay,
There it
Jazzy
is.
Johnny's in business.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Cool. Anybody else having a hard time with this?
Yeah, I didn't make it that far. When I tried to console log where you had Johnny do it, I got null.
Okay, screen share.
So
Show me the thing.
I think you had it down here, right?
Yes. I can't see the bottom of your screen. There we go. Now I see it now. Okay, so try sending a message. All right, cool. Go over to your index.html. It means we're not getting the data out of the form right, but it's otherwise kind of working. So new form data with event.target.
Oh, I think I see the there's no name on the input for
Correct.
message.
Line 19.
Line 19.
Yeah, you got to give it a name of message. Yes, very nice. All right, give it a shot now. Hey!
All right. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk. We're way late over, so if you got to go do something, go do it. But let's talk briefly about some sockets theory. It's honestly pretty easy. There's not a whole lot going on here. What a socket is, all the stuff we've done so far in the program is HTTP. HTTP is one of many protocols. And in fact, these protocols they build on top of each other. So there's protocols on protocols on protocols. It's just protocols all the way down. So when we do this diagram with client and server, like HTTP is always round trip. It's a request response cycle. HTTP. Under that is a protocol called TCP. TCP is one direction. So an HTTP request response cycle takes 2 TCP trips. Sockets are just TCP. There's no, so that means there's no method. It means there's no URL. All that stuff is HTTP. Down at the TCP level, we don't have to wait for a response. We don't get any kind of confirmation. It's one thing talking to one thing. But the power is, with this request response cycle, the client has to initiate everything. There's no way for the server to initiate a cycle. A server can't send a message to a client and then get a response. With TCP, no such requirement. As long as they know where each other are, I can send 3 TCP requests from client to server without getting a response. I can establish this connection and then have the server just send TCP requests all day long. That's how your chat messages work. That's how Slack works. Anytime you're getting auto updates on a page, that's how Twitter works. That's why you don't have to refresh Twitter to see like new tweets. You establish a socket connection and then your server sends you TCP messages whenever it wants, whenever it's getting new messages.
Is a socket a specific configuration of TCP requests, or is a socket like synonymous with TCP request?
A socket is a long-lived connection. So you are establishing a socket. That's what's happening when, oops, I just realized I'm not screen sharing. I was drawing a bunch of stuff. No, I am.
You are.
Okay. So when this happens, this is establishing a socket connection. So the server and the client keep track of that so they can send each other messages whenever they want. That's different than what we do with HTTP, where whenever an event happens, I make a completely new HTTP request that doesn't know anything about any other HTTP requests I've made. The socket is a long-lived connection. It's like a pipeline that both of you can just send messages back and forth to each other on.
Can you give us other use cases for sockets other than just messages?
So we've got any kind of chat message. Also, any kind of real-time data, stock tickers, weather, something like that. App updates. If you've ever used one of those apps that's like, yo dog, there's a new version of our app available, refresh to get it. They established a socket connection with you when you loaded the app initially, and then they can go, oh, we pushed a new version of this. You can even keep track of like when you establish that socket connection, which version of the app were they using? All right, everybody who's not using the current version of the app, broadcast a socket message to all of them, telling them to refresh their browser so they can get we can start a new app download for them. Basically, anything that happens in real time that is initiated by a server, that's sockets.
So like in Discord, right, where you can like do something like this where you're streaming your content, posting messages on a server, you know, all that. Are there like hundreds of sockets? Is it like a socket per like meet? Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it could be tons of them. There's limits, and I actually don't know what they are. How many sockets allowed on a single node process? There you go.
Whoa.
More than 1,000, less than 4,000. And so like there's ways around those limitations. You can federate the servers so that like you're not actually connecting, well, like you end up connecting directly to a server, but you initially go to like a traffic cop of traffic cops who goes like, all right, I'm gonna set you up on this server over here.
So I did a thing once with a GitHub action, basically to update like my most recent blogs or something like that. Is that using sockets somewhere under the hood, and I just don't understand how?
No, that's probably using what are called webhooks.
Yes.
Those are just regular REST endpoints. Oh, they're technically RPC endpoints, but they're just regular HTTP. But for that, you go, hey, by the way, whenever you get a new one of these, just send me a post request to this thing and I'll go and fetch it from you.
So I guess a webhook is saying like you're automating sending a post request. You're basically going on like your client side and you're saying, hey, I'm going to give you some code that tells you that you are going to automatically send me a post request when this thing happens.
Think of it more like it's, I guess, kind of automating a post request. It's saying, it's like sending somebody a fetch message that goes like, hey, by the way, if you have anything to say to me right now, that'd be awesome. That's a webhook.
How to use, okay. Because like that's the ape, like in that model, I guess this is maybe not relevant to the lesson, but in that model, a server is sending that post message to the client. And
But remember, it's in a browser though. This is servers talking to servers talking to servers. So they have publicly accessible URLs.
Okay.
Your browser doesn't. I can't send your browser a message. Two servers can send each other messages. Easy. Sockets, a little bit different. Sockets allow us to do real-time communication between a browser and a server specifically.
Okay. So you can't go from a browser to a browser with a socket?
You can through a server.
Gotcha.
So if there's a second client over here that also has like a socket open with them, and these guys have sockets open, and I go, hey, I want to send a message over here. I ask the server to send them a message on the socket that's established there.
So the reason why the server was sending it to everything at the same time was because of that function they had set up called broadcast, right? That's like saying everybody connected, send them something.
Sort of. So we emitted it. Emitting sends it to absolutely everybody. Broadcasting sends it to everybody but you.
Okay.
Because there's all kinds of reasons why you might not want to get your own messages. We could do optimistic rendering on that. Whenever I hit enter on the thing, it just immediately adds it to the DOM, whether or not it's actually done or not. Makes the app seem faster.
Okay.
But then I don't want to also have my message show up again when I get the event broadcast back at me. And so, or sorry, emitted back at me. So broadcasting will leave out the original sender.
So wait, we broadcasted it from our back end, but we emitted it from our front end.
No, we didn't broadcast anything in this example. But a totally rational way to do this part here would be, instead of saying, oi, fucking everyone, you could say socket.broadcast.emit chat message. And now that's going to go to everybody but me.
Okay.
So if I
on the front end when we emitted, how come on the front end when we emitted our message, it didn't register also back to the front end as well?
What?
I guess I'd have to look at my code to understand what I'm asking.
So I do that. I don't see. Oh, it came back to me. Shouldn't have though. Anyway, that's broadcasting. Completely different topic.
Okay, so we do a socket emit. We're emitting a chat message, and that emits it to everybody, including us.
Yes.
Like the client emits it to everybody, including the client, and then
Yes.
the server is okay. And then the server is not emitting it to anybody. It's just that, like in this case, one client would be directly speaking to the other client.
No, not possible. Always going through the server. Two browsers can't talk to each other. Two browsers have sockets open with a server, and those servers can relay messages.
But when we're telling, like when we have socket.emit chat message, like that emit winds up. I'm confused. I just want to make sure I understand.
Okay,
Like,
stop. Two browsers can't talk to each other. Period. The end of story.
right,
Browser can talk to a server.
right. So what I'm saying is when we first thing we fire off socket.emit, then it sends a TCP out to the server.
Correct.
The server then in response sends a TCP. It also emits a similar thing.
Correct.
Okay, but then I guess what I'm confused about is on the original client, when you emit that, oh, because a browser can't connect with a browser, so that includes itself?
Yep. Well, no. Why would it no, it's just it just gets it back.
Right.
So I emit this thing, the server goes, all right, I'm going to emit it to everyone, including the person who sent it. And then I'm listening for that event.
Including the person who sent, okay, I got it.
So
Well, I guess what I was wondering is if I was
stop.
Okay.
Client 1, client 2. Step 1, I emit a message to the server. Server gets the message and goes, all right, neat. I'm supposed to send this to everybody that I have an open socket with. So both these people get that message. I'm listening for those messages. So is this person. And so then we both handle those however. That's what we just did.
And can a client be connected to multiple servers at the same time?
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess there's some process for handling which server deals with.
They're different variables.
Gotcha.
This could be socket 1, socket A, socket Kyle.
Gotcha.
If you wanted the whole chat history to display, would that involve the persisting to the backend to recall those messages?
Oh, Johnny, you got it. So we can do any fucking thing we want to in here. We could write the message to a DB. We could log it in a file. We can do anything we can do with the language, as well as emitting it back. So yeah, that's exactly how that works.
So if you were building a real chat app or something, you could basically, with this emit, you could send an object, maybe that includes like the user ID or something like that. And then when you find, make sure it's the same user.
Hell yeah. Yeah, these don't have to be strings. These can be as complicated as we want them to be.
Oh, really? Wait, so is socket.io specifically for JavaScript then?
Yes.
Both? Gotcha.
You don't have to have socket.io running on your client and your server. It could be one or the other or neither. Sockets are an underlying technology. They're a core part of the web. They're like, HTTP and stuff. They're very difficult to work with manually. So socket.io makes them not so gnarly to work with manually.
This would also work with React, right?
Yep, totally. You got to be careful about like state and stuff. You don't want to be reestablishing the socket connection every time the component re-renders. You still have to follow like normal like set state or hooks or something like that for the chat messages and stuff. And so you got to be careful about where that socket gets originally initialized. But yeah, otherwise it's the same.
All right, I got a quick dumb question. I've got 2 different tabs open, and while I'm typing, I can see the text being added to the other box, and that's because we're on the same server. So to mitigate that between a chat app, it would be you're persisting that message to the backend first, and then the server from whoever else is going to receive that, that's then updating or re-rendering with
Actually, Gordo, you're overthinking this. That has to do with light server. That doesn't have anything to do with the lesson we're doing.
Okay.
It's because light server coordinates all of its open tabs like that. Check this out. If I used HTTP server, which is the exact same thing, it just doesn't auto refresh the browser.
Mhm.
Can install HTTP server. So if I run it on HTTP server instead, it won't do that.
Okay.
That'll keep those independent from each other.
Gotcha.
Oops. There. And 8081 there. All right, so I got those two things. And now whatever I'm typing in here doesn't also show up over here.
Gotcha.
And the way that it does that, spoiler alert, is through sockets. That's the way that it coordinates all those open browser tabs. That's why you'll see socket errors and shit if, like, I don't know, it idles too long or something like that on light server.
John may have been asking this question, or maybe he did already, but I noticed that the same message is showing up multiple times, and it was almost like tripling or quadrupling to kind of match the number of windows you had open.
Yes.
Is that like a light server issue?
Yes, that's exactly what that was. So I do
Okay.
it now, send that. Oh yeah, sorry. I was broadcasting still. So it didn't show up on this one because I sent it. Did show up on this one. So if I do that, hi, only shows up once. Yeah, that's a light server issue. And it took me a whole day to fucking figure that out once. Oh, who am I kidding? It didn't take me a day. It took me like a month. Why does this keep happening? But only sometimes. Any other questions? Go learn something.
Thank you, Kyle. That was
Thanks,
amazing.
Kyle. Yep, that was